Welcome back to another episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, certified family life educator, life coach, and founder of Empower Her Steps. This season, we're stepping into a new series called Rooted, Restoring the Fruit of the Spirit, a conversation about identity, healing, and inner growth. While the fruit of the Spirit comes from a faith-based framework, the heart of the season is something we can all relate to. The qualities that shape who we are: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control, and how life experience either grows those fruits or challenges those qualities. We're not here to label people good or bad. We are here to explore what is beneath the surface, what shaped us, what stretched us, and what helped us grow. Today, I am really honored to welcome Steve to the show. Steve, hello.
Hi there, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. I'm excited to get to know you further through our conversation. But
Okay.
before we jump into that, let's go ahead and share a little bit about who you are and kind of what brings your interest to this particular topic.
Well, first of all, I like the idea of fruit of the spirit because I just taught the kids at church about fruit of the spirit. So I'm well aware of fruit of the spirit. I grew up in a Christian home and I actually grew up in Pontiac, Michigan. And so I'm a Michigander I guess, by heart. I'm here in Branson, Missouri. I have a wife and I have a cat and a dog. My wife and I have been together for 29 years. And well, actually, yeah, I better not goof that up. 29 years, and we just love working with the kids. I'm also a puppeteer, and I've been doing that for like 30 plus years, and my wife and I have been doing it together for the last 29 years. So we just really enjoyed doing that, and like I said, as I will tell you in the story, there was not a lot of love, joy, and peace.
Mm,
There was not a lot of self-control. So there was a lot of those ingredients that was not rooted like it should have been. And you'd think that growing up in a Christian home, I had problems at school. I got bullied
mm.
at school, and I got bullied at church, and then I got bullied at home. So I just never escaped it. So, but my mom, I call her the prayer warrior. She was the glue that held us together.
Mm.
So,
Wow. And you would think, it's so typical of that thought to be represented today that because you're Christian, the world doesn't challenge you. Like you're talking about being bullied at school, you're talking about being bullied at home and at church. Like just because you're a believer and just because you know who Jesus is doesn't keep you from experiencing what the world has to give us as experiences. And what I've come to learn is that really is just showing that even though we're called, even though we have purpose, even though we have a relationship with God, we still are living in a very broken world. And so those are what, as we go through the experiences and you share your story with us, I think that's what I want our listeners to just understand. It just because you're Christian, just because you have that faith doesn't mean you're not going to ever experience the unpredictableness of life for sure.
right.
So, Steve, let's talk a little bit about the struggle. Um, what was it that you went through? What was it that challenged you in those areas where you talked about being challenged in love and self-control and joy, peace? What was that struggle like for you? And then as you go into your story, when did you realize, oh, you know what, this is something deeper?
Yes. Um, I I've been struggling since I was a little kid. I had an issue with a gait issue, and I guess I was slower than everybody else. And not that I couldn't do anything, but I was just slower. So that was one of the challenges. But I think that the challenge that I had growing up was just I couldn't do a lot of sports. I couldn't do a lot of things. And that was probably the biggest challenges. I couldn't. Now I could ride my bike and I could play kickball and things like that, but it was just and then I also became learn disabled, and because my dad he bullied me to the point where I just would freeze up on tests, and I just got to the point where I was told that I need special education, and I got into special ed, and they said, "You're too smart for this class. You don't. You belong in an LRC or Learner Resource Center, not a special ed class." So the next year, I got out of that, went into a special ed or a LRC room, and I did well. So by the time I got to junior high, I got out of that and was able to grow from there. But it was just the struggle as a little child or as a little kid. That's where I struggled the most. That was my biggest challenge as a child.
Yeah. And I do want to kind of peel this back a little bit for those that are listening. I mean, learning challenges, mental health challenges, behavior challenges, we people that don't struggle in those areas of life tend to stereotype kids, whether it's like, oh, you need special ed classes because you just don't hit the mark, or, um, if it's a behavior issue, we're labeling kids bad, like that's a bad kid, or, if it's a mental health issue, oh my gosh, they're just the word crazy, they're just crazy, whatever. But it really is just a challenge that we are just given at the time, whether that's at birth or if it's, happens, in the early ages of life. It hits us, and it's a challenge in life that we have to overcome or learn to adjust in living with it and how to manage it. But it doesn't deserve a label. And I think that's a key topic here, or a key point here for those that are listening, that just because somebody is struggling in learning, it just means they need to find their niche in how to obtain that. So for you, it was, I just need a little bit more extra time. I just need someone that will sit down and actually have the patience, speaking of the fruit, have the patience to work with me, because I can get the information. I understand the information. I just need the time to slow it down. Um, and that hits home for me. And I'm just gonna, share a story. I have a sister who has dyslexia, and I remember a point in life where she was very young. She was still in grade school, probably, when you first experiencing these challenges. And my dad was trying to help her with her homework. And I remember, because I'm cooking while my dad is helping her. And you talk about being bullied by your father. He just kept hitting the pencil eraser on her head, going, think, think, think. And I'm like, enough's enough, Dad. And I don't know how old I was. I was probably in middle school or whatever. And I would just remember telling him to stop, like, just stop, just quit. I'll help her with her homework. But once we discovered what it was, that it was just a matter of tweaking the education so that she could understand it according to her brain development. And so I think that's where it hits for me. So I'm sure this challenge, I mean, you're talking about being bullied in several areas of your life. This challenge must have said something to you. What was that inner dialogue for you? What were the things that you were kind of thinking of and repeating to yourself that didn't help, probably?
That that I was a failure.
Mm.
Failure was the number one thing. That I can't do this and I can't do that. And of course, I tried mowing the lawn. I tried doing several things to please my dad, and I just could not please him. So I was like, well, I guess I can't do this. I guess I can't do that. What am I going to do for work when I grow up? Where am I going to go? And I was told, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, you failed again.
Wow.
And I just grew up and well, I don't know what I can do. So a friend of mine, well, I will tell you that a friend of mine who was a puppeteer, he did a lot of puppeteering in church. Well, he knew that my dad was really bullying me, and so he said, "You know what, Steve? Can you help me do this? With the puppet stage?" And I just started helping him out a little bit, and then he said, "You know what? I think you'd be good at puppeteering." And so that actually got me rooted in there's where the love, there's where the joy, there's where the peace all came together was through him helping me. And his mom and dad went to Florida with my mom and dad. They were close friends. And so I was able to connect with him, and he became like a big brother to me, a brother, because my other brother, my older brother that I had he bullied me too. I just couldn't escape it. So he knew that what was going on at home. So he pulled me out of that. And my dad was like that with all of our my sisters and brother. And he got to the point where he was so upset with my sister that he said, nobody can, I don't want you to talk to you. And he didn't say anything to me about not talking to her. Well, one day I will tell you this, that one day I was talking on the phone to her, and my dad, he got on the extension on the phone in the garage, and I didn't know that he did. Next thing I know, I'm hearing this stomping through the house. The door swung open with the lawnmower blade. He'd been sharpening his lawnmower blade, cut a chunk out of the door, threw the phone out of my pulled the phone out of my hand, threw it against the TV, broke the TV, and automatically as a kid, I'm like 12, 13 years old, and I put my hand behind my back automatically. And he said, don't you put your hands behind your back. And he never let go of the blade. And when he swatted me, all I could feel was wet on my hands. I turned around and he had sliced, and I thought he sliced my hand off. And there was a pool of blood on my hand. And automatically I screamed, and my mom came in and wondered what happened. And I said, I want to throw him in jail. Well, that's a kid's way of saying I want him in jail,
Yeah.
frustrating. Anyway, so that was just one thing. And there was a couple other things that he had done in the to the neighborhood kid, broke a rake in front of me. And because I was raking the leaves one day, and my friend wanted to come and help me. And he said, nobody's going to help you. He came out, took the rake from my friend, broke it in half, and told her to go home, you fat slob. And so that was just ongoing through
Wow.
even, and then even when I got married, he still had found ways to bully me even in front of my wife.
Mm. And
So
it,
so
it
I was just saying that that's just I didn't want to go into it, and I thought, well, that was just a couple of the stories that come to mind that he did as far as bullying me. So there was some physical abuse there as well.
and it's hard when we do come from a past like that, because a lot of that situation has nothing to do with punishment or discipline or even what you're doing in that moment. It has everything to do with that person and the things. And this is what happens when we don't heal from our own trauma, and we don't learn the things that make us do those things. Because, when we talk about fruit of the spirit and we're talking about those deeper rooted issues, when we experience things in life, it's going to tell us something. Like your message was, you're not good enough. You're not going to ever amount to anything. Those internal messages, because of the way your dad treated you, because of the way you were being treated at school and at church. Like I get that. And that's where we have to come in and know that God will set us free through the truth that he has given us, and that truth is that you were made for purpose, Steve. That truth is that you are someone that can bring joy into the world. You're a puppeteer. Oh my gosh, I'm sure you get so many laughs and smiles from young children, even
Mhm.
adults,
Oh
that get
yeah,
to
the adults like
experience
it, I
that.
think, more than the kids do.
Yeah, and it's amazing the placement that the Lord puts in our path when it comes to people, because you ended up befriending someone that you look up to as a mentor, as a big brother, who taught you this trade, who said, you know what, I think you can do this. And that little spark of nourishment, spiritual nourishment, that little, you know what, you can do this, spoken to you. Look at the amount of joy and peace that you have brought into your life just from that encounter and learning this trade. I mean, it was more than just, yeah, I'm going to learn how to do this. This will be fun. No, I feel like it's deeper than that for you, because it really spoke life into something that was hurting and maybe very distorted based on the experiences that you were going through.
Hmm. Yeah, and so later on, Before I got married to Rachel, I thought I've got to do something to make my dad proud, and so I joined the
Mhm.
U.S. Navy and did that. And what happened was, long story short of that part, is that I was not ridiculed, but I just couldn't make it all the way through. But I graduated boot camp, and so I thought my dad was proud of me. But then when they told me that I couldn't continue on because I'd had this existed prior to entry situation, well, then when I was let go, it started all over again, or it seemed like it started over again. I thought, oh man, I failed. I knew it. I knew it. And it started happening. But then I stopped and said, Lord, you gave me the power, you gave me the strength, and you gave me the love, joy, and peace that I remember having before. And that's when I started my own ministry there in California, and with the puppets and live acting, and so I was able to start that, and that was my gift. God gave me that gift to do, and it won awards. And not that awards is a big thing, but to me, winning an award because of my puppeteering, that told me that I can do something. So the love, joy, peace, patience, and all that came right. It came right back to me. I've never lost it since, and I'm now an ordained minister, and Rachel and I we're ministering together, and so now we're teaching other kids the love, joy, peace, and understanding, and the fruits of the spirit.
I love that. And I just want to say, Steve, thank you so much for sharing so openly. Um, it is a reminder that growth rarely starts with trying harder. It starts with understanding ourselves more compassionately. When we slow down and look at the root, we give shape for healthier fruit to grow. Before we wrap up, what I'd like you to do is leave the listeners with something that they can carry with them. So, if you could leave the listeners with one thought, truth, or encouragement to help them stay more grounded and rooted in who they are becoming, what would it be?
Well, I wrote a book, or wrote a chapter in a book, called Action Takers Speak Up and Speak Out," and the title was "Surviving the Storm."
Mm.
And so I'm going to leave you with this. There's a lot of dark clouds forming in your life. And just remember, when they're there, there's always a silver lining. Go find yours.
Mm, I love that. And before we close, where can the people purchase your book or find your book?
Well, they can go on to Amazon, and they can find it on Amazon. I can't obviously sign it because I do a lot of signing autographs and things like that, but they can go on to Amazon, and I think it's $20 on Amazon. So,
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much, Steve, for sharing your story and your growth with us. What I love about conversations like this is it's a reminder that transformation isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, healing, and intention. When we tend to the root, the fruit begins to grow naturally. To our listeners, take a moment to reflect. Which inner quality feels hardest right now, and what part of your story might be asking for more attention and care? For me, my faith is where the healing begins, and if you're curious about that journey, you're always welcome here. No pressure, no judgment, just space to grow. So until next time, friends, stay rooted, stay real, and stay growing. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.